Welcome to the My Business Podcast, where we sit down with local businesses and we talk about who they are, where they come from, and what inspires them to be in business.
Hello and welcome to the My Business Podcast. Today in the studio, I've got Angie from Yoni Steam Australia. Welcome, Angie.
Oh, thank you, Adam. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited.
Oh, look, I'm glad to have you here because today we're talking about your business being Yoni Steam Australia, and I think it's something that not a lot of people would know about. So I'm really interested in finding out more. But look, your journey is truly remarkable. Can you take us back to where it all began and tell us your story?
Yeah, well, actually, it's kind of a long-winded story if I really go into depth. But, you know, I grew up with brothers and I struggled with really severe period pains as soon as I reached puberty. I was one of those people in high school that would have to come back and have days off school, and it translated when I got into the work environment. Sometimes I'd have to call in sick if it was really severe. But eventually over time I developed endometriosis and PCOS, and when I was probably about 16 I tried going on the pill and I had some really rare severe side effects to it. So I had something called erythema nodosum, which actually came up as big red nodules on the fronts of my shins, and I actually really struggled to even walk. I remember just being in hospital and basically just laying there in so much pain. You couldn't even just skim over my skin in that area. It was just so painful. I was almost yelling in pain. When they told me it was a really rare side effect to the pill and that it's probably best not to ever go on a hormonal contraception, they tried to get me to get like a copper IUD or a hysterectomy or something like this, and I was so young. So I decided not to go down either of those paths and just figure it out on my own. But, you know, as time progressed and went on, I unfortunately developed PCOS and endometriosis, and I was probably about 20, 21 at the time. And it got to the point that I was so severe, the waiting list was 14 months in order to get the surgeries to have that burnt out of you, basically. Mm-hmm. And because mine was so severe, I ended up not being able to work. I had full-time pain, and I had tried all the Candida diets, all the supplements, all the teas, and I had to get the surgery. So I got the surgery and it helped me. It really did help me for a period of my life. But they also gave me notice that, look, normally people with endometriosis, it does come back, it does recur. Most women have that issue where it does keep going.
So this wasn't going to permanently help?
No. All they can do is get rid of the problem for now, and if it keeps going, and you might have to keep coming back in. That did occur, and that occurred a little bit later when I was 27, but in that period before that, I had cysts burst inside of me. I had, huge cysts on my ovaries. I had lots of hormonal issues where I would be fainting without even being dizzy first, just absolutely crazy things. And I went to the hospital. I went for MRIs in case it was something neurological, and I tried all of these different things. I kept going to doctors and demanding, some sort of help. What is this? And none of them could give me a clear answer. And I was like, what if I'm driving in a car behind the wheel and all of a sudden I start fainting? Like, that's a life or death thing for me and possibly others. And I was really, really frustrated with the hospital system. But they sent me home and cleared me because there was nothing wrong with me. So fast forward to when I went and actually did something about it. I spoke to my mum and she's like, I think we should go see a hormone specialist. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's try it. And she found a lot of different things going on. One, that I have a genetic mutation called MTHFR, and people in the wellness community are starting to talk more and more about it now. It just basically means that my body doesn't quite absorb all the B12s. It actually sits in my blood and treats them almost like toxins. So there's so many things that I have to constantly detox and constantly look after in order to keep at an optimal health above what other people sort of have to do.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I saw the hormone specialist, she told me about this gene mutation, but she also told me that I was, my estrogen levels seemed to be slightly over. My progesterone was quite low and my testosterone levels were also quite low. So I was on, the creams and things like this. I had another thing that I had to put like a wafer under my tongue each day. And to be honest, the creams made me feel worse. The hormone replacement therapy made me feel dizzy every time I applied it.
Was this starting to work? But it sounds like it wasn't.
It did to a degree, especially finding out the MTHFR thing. I now take daily like methyl B12s, which skips the methylization process that my body can't do, and it goes straight absorbed into the body. However, that can cause liver toxicity, so I'm constantly doing liver cleanses. And I suppose when I reached around 27, I had sort of stopped all of that and I got my endometriosis back.
What a journey.
So crazy. So this is actually how I found Yoni steaming, and I incorporated all the diets. I got rid of a lot of different things that weren't serving me and my body. And I was trying everything and everything sort of helped. Didn't really kick the pain, but sort of helped. And I didn't want to go down the traditional path of having those surgeries again. The recovery time is just not nice. I hate hospitals, feeling helpless in a bed.
Yep.
So I stumbled across it and somehow managed to do it correctly from home because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And my first experience doing my Yoni steaming was actually more of a spiritual and emotional one, actually. It wasn't until about my third or fourth steam that I actually felt a difference in my body.
Really?
Yeah, it was incredible. Like going from full-time pain to absolutely none was just mind-boggling. And, endometriosis is an incurable disease. That's what they say. But having complete relief from my symptoms, that was just amazing and
life-changing, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely life-changing, and it completely changed my quality of life.
I can imagine. So, for those new to the concept, like myself, and probably a lot of people listening, can you explain exactly what Yoni steaming is, and maybe a bit about its historical significance?
Yeah, so it's actually a really awesome ancient practice in a lot of Eastern countries from around the globe. They don't even know the origin. It's been practiced in ancient Greece, ancient Korea, ancient India. My ex-husband, his mother is Filipino, and she was introduced to it traditionally after she gave birth to him. And she didn't know what she was doing at the time. It wasn't until I spoke about it. And she's like, oh, I actually did that. They do that in Filipino culture, and I've had clients from Japan that say that they use wormwood as one of the herbs that they use. But essentially what Yoni steaming is basically you have a bowl or a pot of hot steaming water infused with some sort of herbal concoction.
Right.
And you basically just sit over it, trapping the steam in. So how it kind of works is you're warming up all of the internal organs. You're relaxing all the muscles around the organs. So you're actually giving yourself, instead of like a heat pack on the outside of the body, you're actually giving yourself a relaxation of all of those muscles. You actually let it to completely release the tension. And this is where it can be a similar experience in a spiritual way as well. But on a physical level, you're relaxing all the organs, you're hydrating the area. So after childbirth, scarring from surgery, which is what I would have had too, it's all really helpful with that. And with specific herb blends that we can use to treat different ailments or different things that's going on in a woman's body. So that's essentially what the practice is. You're just sitting over a bowl of herbs and hot steam.
Right. How long does a treatment take?
It depends. It varies woman to woman. And this is why it's so important for people to come in and actually have a consultation.
Sure.
Because if you're on any form of birth control, because of the cleansing effect, it can actually reverse it so that you become fertile.
Oh, right.
Because, and that's exciting because people that want to be fertile, this could potentially help them. it's not a cure to anything, and I don't like to promise anything to any woman, but it is part of a holistic approach to these things that are hormonal or that may be struggling with. So for instance, in the form of birth control, I would only do them for like 12 minutes max. In my training, it was about 15 minutes is safe for someone on birth control. I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Sure.
But the way that birth control works is it creates a thick mucus lining so no sperm can actually penetrate the egg.
Sure.
And with the cleansing effect of the hydration, and what it also does is it loosens old debris and residues from inside the body. So when your body naturally sheds it out of its cycle, it all disperses, which is really crazy and cool. But yeah, because of that cleansing effect, that mucus lining can deteriorate and therefore it can make you fertile again. So people on birth control, it would be like 12 minutes for me. But people that aren't on birth control or not worried about that, or are on birth control for different reasons, not relating to contraceptive issues, some people do it for acne or weight or whatever it is, they can steam for longer. So on a general basis, I just have my steaming setups at 20 minutes. Some people can actually go for longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you talked about the herbal blend. So can you talk about the importance of the customization of that herbal blend and what that does with your steam? So how do you get that right for each particular client that you have? How do you know what blend to use?
So when I have my consultations with them, I sit down and I ask them about their history. I ask them about their goals, what allergies they've got, if they're on any medications, because some herb concoctions can actually contraindicate those medications that they're on. So it's really important that we really research that, and no one is the same as anyone else. There is not a one size fits all. You know, I do have pre-made herb blends specifically for different uses that people can actually purchase from home and do it from home. I've got a whole how to steam from home brochure on my website. But, you know, that's at each person's own risk. If they would like it customized to suit their unique needs and their unique body, that's when I can come in, or we can do a phone consultation or an in-person consultation. But essentially what we do is we find what their goals are or what their issues are. And if they're not sure of their issues, I go through a bit of a journey and I get them to tell me about their cycles. We look at the calendar, and let me make this clear. For women that don't have a cycle anymore, it doesn't mean you don't have a cycle. If you are post-menopause, or if you are later in life, or you've had a hysterectomy, you still go through hormonal cycles. A lot of people don't realise that. We still go through all phases of a hormonal cycle. So that's part of the educational piece that I do as part of my consultations as well, to get people really in touch and in tune with their own bodies and how their own bodies work every day of the month.
Fantastic. You talk about the people being able to steam at home, but you've set up something quite fantastic at your studio there. Tell us about the ambience and what you've created so that it's a full experience, isn't it?
It's such a full experience, and it's so goddessy. I love
that.
I love how goddessy it feels. It's a really feminine, beautiful, and it's a very gentle practice. It often sounds a bit strange to do until you actually sit and do it, and it just feels like a feminine meditation experience where you just get to trust and nurture your own body. It really gets you in touch with yourself. So when you come in, I'm inside a float centre. So it's called Floating Away. It's in Oasis in Broadbeach. And they have float therapy, infrared saunas, and then my own private room for Yoni steaming, where we do the consults out of, and you get to see the range of my herbs in beautiful jars. You know, we dim the lighting. We've got meditation music there. I've got oracle cards.
Lovely.
I have a book, so that there's always something for you to do just to switch off. So I encourage people not to go on their phones or, you know, get into that doing, but to really just sit there and meditate and look after the self. And it's a really beautiful experience, to be honest, and I have so much good feedback.
Sounds amazing. Can you tell me how Yoni steaming fits into a bigger picture?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, like one size doesn't fit all. for some people, Yoni steaming makes a huge difference. For some people, it helps, but it's only a small part of the picture. So for me, when I speak with clients that are already doing acupuncture or are already seeing a naturopath or a dietitian, it does form part of a picture. So what I like to say is an illness or a disease or an ailment is not caused by any one thing. It's usually a built up thing of multiple things, multiple bad habits, multiple patterns in life. A lot of it can be to do with stress. A lot of it can be to do with diet. A lot of it can be to do with, not exercising enough or over-exercising. There's so much to this.
Into it,
Yeah. And so like one of the big things that I really focused on was the phytoestrogens. That's in everything, like packaged foods. It's on our food and produce, all the plastic. That's all phytoestrogens. And what that does is it decreases the testosterone in males, and it also increases the estrogen in females. So you're having this constant imbalance. If you are heating up your food in plastic containers, guess what? You're steaming all of that plastic into your food and you're ingesting excess estrogens. Same thing with plastic bottles. If you leave that out in the sun, you're drinking plastic, you're drinking estrogens. There's so much excess of estrogens, and excess estrogens causes weight gain. It causes so many different things. So that's only one part of the approach. You've also got, you want to drink clean, filtered spring water if you can, and you want to be eating really nice whole food diets, not so much the processed foods. And you also want to be incorporating things like this if you're having hormonal imbalances, or even if you just want to regularly cleanse the area, because we never do. So I like to think it's part of a holistic approach. It's not going to fix everything unless you are making those little changes.
Other changes as well.
Yeah, exercising enough.
Look, I think that is the same for many I wouldn't call this alternative, but alternative ways of going about your health. It's putting them all together.
Yeah.
But look, for anyone maybe hesitant or curious about Yoni steaming after hearing this, what would you say to them? How can they know whether this is the right step?
If you have that little niggle inside, or if you are curious, I'm quite a spiritual person, Adam. I set the intention for this not to be a business. Originally, I just set this as the right people will find me. The people that need it will find me. And the Float Centre found me. They called me at the end of last year and said, hey, we're opening up a wellness centre. We'd love Yoni steaming to be a part of it. And we sat down and had those chats. And every single client that has found me has, because they've had that little niggle. And for some weird reason, it seems to have helped them. I've never had a client really be like, that was a freaking waste of time.
Yep.
One. I've had people be like, wow, that felt really nice and gentle. And you're right, it felt really relaxing. I could have done that for longer. Or like I've had people go like, wow, I got my period and I haven't had that for 6 months since coming off birth control. And I'd only steamed once. And I'm like, wow, that's incredible.
Amazing.
I've had so many awesome testimonials and I've helped so many people without really realizing that I would be able to help them to that extent. I never promised that I will, but, the right people have found me. So if
I can feel your wonderful energy, Angie. And I just want to say, this is what podcasts are about. If you're listening or watching us here now and you can feel that little spark inside, you can feel that little bit of something, get in touch with Angie. For listeners interested in trying this, getting in touch with you, just coming to have a consultation, how can they get started with you and Yoni Steam Australia?
Well, go to my website. It's just yonisteamaustralia.com.au. You can read more about my story, a bit more in depth. And if you resonate, you can definitely reach out to me through there. I have some herb blends that you can try from home, a whole how to steam from home brochure, like I said. But if you have specific needs, specific targets in mind, if you're worried or concerned about anything and you would like to have a chat, let me support you. You know, we're here to support
Get
each
in
other,
touch.
you know, and, you know, for some people, they only need the initial consultation, but some people might need several because this should be part of a routine of cleansing that area. You know, it's root chakra work, it's sacral chakra work, it's physical, it's mental. My first experience was actually extremely emotional. I was crying and releasing for like 3 days straight. So it's just nice to have someone to hold your hand and support you in your journey. So if you are feeling the need to have a chat, just call me, just message me, flick me an email, whatever's the best way for you to get in touch with me. I'm always open, you know.
So give me that email.
Yeah, so it's just Angie, ANGIE, at Yoni, YONI, steamaustralia.com.au, and you'll go straight to me.
Fantastic. Look, it sounds to me like it is for all females. However, if you've specifically had issues in and around that area at any time, this could potentially, as part of a bigger plan, or even on its own, be something that could be what for you, Angie, sounds like a miracle.
It was a miracle. And I might just add there quickly, Adam, is if you're pregnant, we don't yoni steam. If you're menstruating,
Fair enough.
we don't yoni steam. You know, there are certain things that you just don't want to be doing it, but it is for every woman, but not in every phase of our lives. So I totally relate. But you know what? It's really good for postpartum care. And there are other times that it can benefit you. So if it feels like the timing's not right, or if you are pregnant already and you are wanting to prepare for after you give birth, you know, naturally given birth, you can steam 3 days later. For anything that's a C-section, you just got to wait until you are healed and it's dry, the wound is dry, and you're all good to go.
Fantastic. Yeah. Look, Angie, been absolutely enlightening, and I'm sure our listeners out there have got so much for this. Get in touch, and look, thank you so much for coming in and telling us all about something I didn't know anything about, and as I said, I'm sure a lot of others didn't, and it's something that all women should have a look at.
Absolutely. And on that note, I am also going to be launching a product where you can actually purchase the Yoni steaming stools, and they're going to be flat pack, so you can put them together and take them apart and put them away. So if people are wanting to do that from home anywhere from around Australia, I will be launching that on my website pretty soon. It's probably still another couple of months away, but we've done the design. It's just putting it all together. So
fantastic. Yeah. How exciting.
I know.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Angie Meagher, Yoni Steam Australia, thank you so much for being on the My Business podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Adam. It's such a pleasure.